he sort of emerged from nowhere, really. His parents were respectable, middle-class Sussex farmers, and it was his athletic prowess that showed early. And by the time he got to public school, for various reasons he went to public school at Repton in the Midlands, he started to show a precocious athleticism. And he got into school first 11 for cricket. He also did athletics, played football and rugby football. But of course nobody really noticed him until he went to Oxford, which he did in the late 1880s. And he immediately blossomed athletically and got into the cricket team, the athletics team and the soccer team against Cambridge, and went on to be captain of all three sports, which is very rare. And he would have played in the rugby team, but he was injured before the varsity match. So he was a triple blue. And then in addition to that, he was rather sort of beautiful and good looking. And then he did terribly well in his studies, got a first-class degree in what they call honour moderations, which is the first degree you take in Oxford after 5 terms. And so he was sort of height of Victorian sports-aware people. He was a sort of demigod, really, and he had a wonderful time. Then, of course, he left Oxford, great reputation as a sportsman, and he had to get a job. None of my family had been terribly good at getting jobs. He was a schoolmaster at Charterhouse for a couple of years, but that didn't suit him. And what he really wanted to do, of course, was play cricket. And he managed to find various benefactors who subsidised him. And from 1895, he played county cricket every summer. And of course got in the England side. And then in 1901, he had his famous year when he made 6 consecutive centuries, which no one has ever beaten. It's been equalled but never beaten, 6 consecutive first-class centuries. And he had a great career. Of course, he didn't play that much cricket in those days, so you won't find him in the top of the list of runs in Test matches. He never toured. He never went to Australia. His other games, he played for England briefly at soccer. And he, while still at Oxford, he equalled the world long jump record, 23 feet 6.5 inches, was as a sort of second-year undergraduate, almost by mistake. The rumour was that, it's not true, but it's a nice story, that he was having a very good lunch in his college and was just having a cigar after lunch when they said, "You know they're doing jumping down at Iffley Road." He said, "No, I didn't know. Why don't you go down and have a jump, CV?" And he went down and set the world record. There are various stories, you see, and then he went on. He was a great self-publicist, so he, in later life, he self-publicist, his great friend was Ranjit Singh, the Indian player, who of course India didn't play Test matches, so Ranjit Singh ended up playing for England. He and CB became great muckers and mates, and then after the war, First World War, and he was obviously not playing cricket anymore, Ranjit said, "Well, I'm doing the League of Nations, representing India, and come out and be my helper, secretary, aide-de-camp, etc." And this is the famous occasion on which the Archbishop of Cyprus said, we need a new king for Albania. Would Mr. Fry consider auditioning for the part? And he had this interview for King of Albania, which again, in the myth, he was offered it and turned it down. In fact, he was never actually offered it. He was on the short list. But at least he had an interview to be King of Albania. That's something everybody remembers. And CV had a bad time in the 30s, where he was sort of retreated from life and didn't want to know, etc. But then in the late 30s, he sort of came out again, and he was the Evening Standard cricket correspondent. He used to go to all the Test matches, and he wrote an autobiography, which was very well received, Life Worth Living. I, of course, knew him after the war, when I was 9, 10, 11, up to 17, 18, when he died. And we had Well, I knew him quite well. I mean, he was getting a bit doddery, but he was a grand old man. 80th birthday, the leader in the Times and all that. And it was interesting to have known him. And he died shortly after the TV programme in 1956, the age of 84. Well, I was in my last year at school, at CB's old school, Ripton, and I think I was actually my last term in the autumn of 55. Just had my 18th birthday, and I suddenly got this message: headmaster wants to see you. I said, what have I done wrong? He said, well, we don't normally let boys out during the term time, but your grandfather's going to be on the television. There's a programme called This Is Your Life, and they want you to go down and appear on the stage. So that was all fixed up, and in my first experience really of the world of showbiz, quite sort of exotic really, all these television people and bags of drink in the green room and Eamonn Andrews being jolly and world famous figures coming on stage. It was great. I thought, this is a life. I think this is what I want to do when I grow up. I subsequently changed my mind as I got to know showbiz people rather better, but they were very alluring at that stage to an 18-year-old boy. But yeah, I think it was a bit of a shock initially. It's supposed to be a shock, isn't it? No, surely not me. No, I can't be. It adapted pretty quickly, and as you can see from the photographs in the book, he participated quite well and behaved himself, and I think was pleased to have had it done. Although old and a bit doddery, he reacted to it quite well because he was a bit of a showman. He loved being in the limelight. Indeed, that was part of the problem in his later life, that he wasn't in the limelight enough. It was all relatively informal. Eamonn had the script, and one was told roughly what one was supposed to say, which wasn't very much. Just a few things like what you were doing and what your relationship with the old boy was and all that. So you see, we didn't know much about television in those days. It wasn't the big event that it is now. There was no cult of celebrity or anything like that. So we just told to go on and chat. And it was only 2 or 3 minutes that I was standing there talking to him and Eamonn, and then you go and stand at the back or sit at the side of one of the other people come on. So it didn't seem a worrying thing to do at all. I mean, the thing that was interesting to me, even as a 17-year-old, who's largely not switched onto the world yet, were the cricketers who came to the programme, predominantly Jack Hobbs, who of course is a picture in the book of Jack Hobbs. Also Sidney Barnes, who was a fantastic bowler. He was in old age, and 1 or 2 others. Otherwise, he didn't really have any very grand people on the programme, but the various aspects of life were touched on. He was very garrulous normally, and he talked the whole time. And there's one story where he did go to Australia, not to play cricket, but he went on tour as a journalist with the team sometime between the wars. And there's a story that he was so garrulous that he was famous for sort of talking the whole time, monopolising the conversation. And they were somewhere, and somebody said, we're now going to have 2 minutes silence in honour of some. And Neville Cardus, the famous commentator, was beside him, said, that'll test you, Charles. He did bang on a bit, right. And he was frightfully well read, in spite of the fact that he didn't actually do terribly well in his studies, because he was playing sport the whole time. But he was very learned, and he knew about everything, and he could give you disquisitions, and did give you disquisitions on any subject under the sun, and give him a chance. Obviously he wasn't allowed to do that too much in a 30-minute programme. Never have got past the second guest. But no, he was quite a character.